y'all, come on in. Welcome back.
What?
We're gonna be
Are you ready to rest?
we've
Calm down.
we've got the coloring done.
What?
Got stamping done. Ready for the assembly and installing the hardware on it.
What you're asking for? Do you want breakfast? You want breakfast?
There's a couple of things I was really kind of weird about on this one.
Hang on.
I've never had this happen to me, even over all the years I've been doing this. But I had to use the acrylic colors on the flag, only because that's the only place I can find some white. And this is what I used. There's colors out there that are specifically or specially made for leather, and they're very good. But this is the first time using that white that I've ever seen this happen. But it actually, I wanted to go for the antique look anyway, but I've never had it flake off like that. So I don't know if that's just where this particular piece of leather came out of the hide, if there was something on it or in it. Again, that's just part of it. You don't know where that cow's been or anything like that. But anyway, I used the acrylics on here, even though I do have a red and a blue. They would not have been the same contrast then as what the white would have been. So I used the acrylics on the flag, and then the green and the yellow here. They were just a permanent leather dye. And then I just ran the stain then, did a mahogany color all the way around the border. And then I just used the Fiebing's antique stain then to go in and highlight all of the edges, all of the little lines and everything like that. And let it dry and sealed it with super sheen, and then let it dry overnight. But anyway, we've got it to the point now to where it's time to install the hardware on it. And there was a couple of things that we found. We found these at Joann Fabrics as well. They're magnetic latches. And I still got a cover over it. But the tongues on them are long enough to go through a thinner piece of leather. And up to this point, we really haven't been able to find anything that would be long enough that would go through. Most of the stuff out there is made for like sewing and other much thinner materials. But, a little bit tough to find some hardware sometimes for the leather. And another thing I wanted to show you was we've had observation on my part, I guess you could say, of I've seen these edges out here where it's going to be handled the most. These edges over time would want to start curling up just from the handling of them. So what I do the same thing on that clutch purse. I just got me a piece of coat hanger, just a metal coat hanger. If I guess you could use just a little heavier gauge metal or something like that if you couldn't find a metal coat hanger. But what I do is this will go on the inside. it'll attach to the leather on the inside. I'll just use the adhesive
It'll be here when you're ready.
there to put it down. And then that way when I come in with the liner, it'll just be covered up. But then I wanted to show y'all you can do things like this if you're putting a liner in something. That'll what I did, I went ahead and made another cell phone case. This one's going to be for me. And I took it up to the point to where it's now ready for the stitching. But you can see how we've got the hardware, the latch and stuff put in. And then on here, you can see the piece of coat hanger that I just put in between the liner and the leather. What that does for you is, as you're grabbing it to open it and stuff like that, this leather starts to break in and get softer and stuff. It may curl up a little bit right out here on the very corner, but it's not going to curl up back in any further than where that coat hanger is. And then you put a bend in it enough to where this piece of the hardware gets installed into the liner, whereas the mating part of it right here, that goes into the leather. And then your belt loop, then I've got this one attached to the back side of it, and that also went behind the liner. So when you're making items like this, just take your time, think it through, what's going to need to be on the leather and what needs to be attached to the liner. And that way when you put all of it together, then your interior is nice and clean. And you can see where that outside piece is behind the liner, as well as that piece of coat hanger. Now this will, over time, that will eventually rub through. But it's going to take a long time just because of where it's placed. It's just not going to have that much, handling out there. So it should last a very long time. So anyway, I wanted to show you all those couple of things, and just lay it out on your project. Make up your mind where things are going to need to go, because they're going to vary from project to project depending on what it is and the size of it. So I've got the dimensions figured out for the clutch purse as well as cell phone case, and I just make notes. I just write down in my tracing book where the item is, where we've got the pattern sketched out in the book. I'll write those measurements down so that now that we have our pattern, then I've got those measurements too, and I don't have to remeasure each time, or I don't have to try to remember. But anyway, I'll get all this done, get the liner put on, and then we'll do some stitching. Some of it's going to have to be done by hand, which I'm discovering, even though that I have that machine now. There's going to be times like this. This piece here, for instance, will fold under. When it gets stitched up, and you'll have that effect right there. Got a little breather hole cut down here in the bottom of it. But this is going to have to be done by hand, simply because well, there's just not any way to get a machine down inside there, not that far down. So anyway, you're going to still have areas where you're just going to have to do it by hand. Like on the belt loop, for instance, when I get it laid out. Oh, I wanted to show you something. I mentioned this little guy last night, Madame So. But this is what Judy got me at Jo-Ann Fabrics, that little chalk pen. If y'all haven't discovered yet, then after you get your color on a project and you get it sealed, that pencil doesn't really do you a whole lot of good anymore. So I'm 1.5 inches. So I need 3/4 of an inch to my center. And I'll just show you how this little thing works. It is the coolest little thing. And there's the center of my belt loop. And then when I get done stitching, just take a stiff brush, come in and just brush that chalk off of it. It's the coolest little thing I think I've ever seen. It's sure been a lifesaver or just been a huge help. And you can do the same thing on your project. I haven't got the belt loop. I haven't got where it lives measured out yet, so I'm not going to put any marks on here yet. But it'll do the same thing on here. You just come in and just very lightly. Now that it's sealed and it's dry, that little wheel on there, not going to leave hardly any impression at all. May leave a little bit. So you want to make smaller marks. That'll be not so visible. But you just go in with it even out here on your project. And you just make your marks real lightly. You come in wherever your marks are and line up your belt loop or whatever you're attaching. And then do your stitching. You get a center line out here on your project or however you need to lay it out. And like I said, it's going to vary from project to project, size to size. So when you get ready to do that, these are so cool. I just love it. But anyway, that's how that little guy works now. Your lines are very visible now, instead of wondering where that pencil mark went. But anyway, I'm going to get that done, and I've got to get this glued in place where it's going to live. What you want to do if you're putting a stiffener rod in it too is you have to think ahead. This portion of the magnet latch is going to be attached to the liner, so it's going to come in down here. So you got to make sure that your bend here is up high enough to where your latch is still going to, when you come in with your liner, this is going to be attached to the liner. You want it to be able to clear your stiffener rod. But anyway, that's these are a couple of things that I do to stiffen up a high traffic area, or a high handled area I should say. And wanted to show you guys the magnetic latches. We got a sack of them. I think that, Judy, how many of these magnetic latches were in that sack? She's going back to the other room. I don't remember what the count of it was. Maybe been 50 or something like that in there. But we have those now. and instead of having to put snaps and stuff like that in. So thought that was pretty cool as well. And here's your little backer pieces that go behind them. So they'll stiffen it up, so it's going to last a long time. It's going to stay there for a while. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this done, and all of this is just going to be locating the hardware, getting the stiffener rod put in, get the belt loop put on, and get it ready for the liner to be put in. And that is going to be, well, may not be boring, but I don't think it's going to be the most exciting thing in the world to watch. So anyway, I'm going to get it up to the same point of this one, get them both ready to start stitching. And then I will show you some of that. All right, so with that, as always, don't be mean. If you're not willing to treat Jesus that way, then let's not treat each other that way. We're here to have some fun, make some things out of leather, learn some new things, show the mistakes that we make, and so others can learn, and make some stuff out of leather. So anyway, I'll get it up to that point. As soon as I get it ready to get it up to the stitching point, then we'll come back and I'll show you the stitching machine on this one. So anyway, with that, until next time, adios.